Hi, my name is Chris Burris. I'm a longevity expert and the chief scientist at a lab focused on a longevity molecule. My primary focus is to help people live longer and better lives with science. Make sure to subscribe and share so you and your friends can live longer and better. Well, actually, so you and your friends can live beyond the norms.
Now, LPSs, so lipopolysaccharides, take a prominent role in the gut-brain paradox. You've mentioned them in previous book, but they took a much bigger stage. What are LPSs? Why do you first curse about them? You actually openly curse in your audiobook and in your book, and then at the end encourage us to seek them out.
So we've known for actually a very long time that LPSs are the cell wall of gram-negative bacteria. And our immune system cannot tell the difference between a living bacteria and a dead bacteria. The immune system determines who an invader is by literally reading the barcode that exists on the surface of whatever it's looking at. And LPS bacteria have a very distinct barcode, and our immune system is literally a barcode scanner, and it reads like a passport scanner. It says, oh yeah, this is a good guy, or this guy's on the no-fly list, etc. And so LPSs are recognized as a living bacteria by our immune system. They can't tell the difference. Why is that important? Well, we can take LPSs, which are dead bacteria, and inject them into you or me, or healthy volunteers. And these people will immediately go into septic shock. The heart rate will go sky high, the blood pressure will drop, they'll get a fever and literally fall on the floor. Because they think there are, the septic bacteria. Wim Hof, the Iceman, who I've had on my podcast, became famous, among other things, because using his breathing techniques, he can be injected with LPS and just sit there and go, yeah, so what? Ho-hum. And he wrote a paper where he trained 20 people in his techniques, and they were injected with these bacteria, and they didn't go into septic shock. So these guys are nasty, and they really do create an inflammatory response in us. Whenever I write a new book, I usually head down rabbit holes, and I was very interested in root vegetables, because root vegetables are a large part of ancient human diet. And it turns out root vegetables have huge amounts of LPS producing bacteria in the soil, and they cling to the root vegetable. And you go, well, wait a minute, root vegetables are good for you, and all these people are eating root vegetables. How in the world can eating LPSs be good for you? Well, I use the example for myself. As a teenager, I had horrible allergies, ragweed, grasses, so bad that I actually had to get allergy shots. And allergy shots work by giving you tiny, tiny doses of the thing you're allergic to. In fact, first time I was tested, I went into anaphylactic shock. They had to give me epinephrine.
What's the dosing after the kid has gone into anaphylactic shock to we need to titrate this up?
Well, yeah, you gotta get back up even further. So you start with these tiny doses, and then you keep increasing the dose, and the immune system basically gets trained that, this isn't as bad as I thought. I'm used to this. I've seen it before. I don't have to sound the alarm. And then that's how the tolerance is achieved. So then I said, well, I wonder if that happens if you eat LPSs. And sure enough, there's a wonderful body of literature that I talk about in the book that oral exposure to LPSs trains the immune system that, hey, these guys are, ubiquitous. You don't have to worry about these guys. And then, lo and behold, I find out that grain products have LPSs in grains. And it turns out that spices leaves have their own microbiome. Who knew? Beans have their own microbiome. And a lot of them are LPS based. And so I came away going, son of a gun, maybe there are benefits to these foods because of their LPS content training the immune system. Now, what I try to point out to anyone who will listen is we have always detoxified the lectins in these various foods by fermentation. And for instance, when Italians soak their beans for 48 hours, and if anyone's actually soaked their beans, they know that this scum rises to the top. And that's actually the fermentation of the beans by its own microbiome. And the fermentation breaks down the lectins. And that's what happens. I mean, the Incas always fermented their quinoa. They let it rot before they cooked it. And that's not on the package direction. The fermentation has been a part and parcel of cultures diffusing lectins. But yeah, swallowing LPSs is really a good idea. When I was a kid back in the 50s and 60s, we had what was called a victory garden, which came out of World War II. And you'd go out in the backyard and you'd pull a carrot out of the ground and you wouldn't take it in and spray hand sanitizer on it. And, you brushed it on your pants and you ate it with the dirt and everything. And who would have believed that, that's what we always did. And, we always played in the dirt and, ate dirt. And it's one of the things that dog owners have a much better microbiome, have much less asthma and allergies than non-dog owners because the dogs are bringing LPSs and other soil bacteria into the house and you.
It has this parallel. So my wife and I have 15-year-old twins now, and I remember this moment with the pediatrician where she was like, hey, are they starting to put everything in their mouth? Because there literally is a phase with these children, right, where it's like, quick, get it in my mouth. Like it doesn't even matter what it is. Quick, get it in my mouth. And she said, okay, at this point, you no longer need to sterilize your milk bottles, right? We weren't doing that anyway. We were just washing them well, but we didn't go through some formal sterilization process. But this has to be kind of this instinctual, I've got to build up my immune system. And the opposite of building up the immune system is using lots of hand sanitizer and washing your hands too much. And what kind of impact do you think on general immune system, the pandemic and all of this cleanliness and distance? Is there any data, and what is your feeling?
Well, yeah, this was the proposal, and I'm blanking on his name, the hygiene hypothesis was that this complete avoidance of, bacteria is really led to the fact that our immune system has never been properly trained about who's good and who's bad. We've got an untrained militia. And I talk in the beginning of the book about the huge battle between the two giants of bacteriology, Pasteur and Béchamp in France, and who eventually won that battle. It was the wrong guy, but that's a great story in and of itself. But yeah, the germ theory, the germ hypothesis, became prevalent because of Pasteur winning the debate. But Beauchamp's argument was, no. Bacteria are not bad in and of themselves. It's as long as there's a balance, the terrain is in balance, then the good guys never overwhelm the bad guys. It's like a tropical rainforest. And as long as all these species are interdependent on each other, then the balance is what is important, not any specific bacteria. But it's the unbalancing of this tropical rainforest that gets people into trouble.
It makes sense. I've even, normally with lettuce that's going a little, and maybe you can speak to this, that's going a little bit bad, you might very carefully select it out or just throw the whole bag away. I think that those are actually of value because you think about how we evolved. There was a lot of rotten lettuce eaten, a lot of rotten, because that was the only food option. Any opinions there?
Well, again, it's interesting, unlike dogs, we do have an aversion to rotten smells. And so that was probably protective, at least for us. Dogs have just incredibly high gastric acid compared to us. And so they've evolved, if you will, as carrion eaters. That's another subject, but we did not do that. But fermentation was the only way to preserve anything. Now, all of our meats had to be fermented one way or another. And I talk about what these cultures have always relied on fermentation of milk, for instance, turning it into yogurt or cheeses, fermentation of meats, turning them into sausages or hams, is the only way to long-term store these perishable foods. And it was the fermentation that was actually really good in so many ways.
It's definitely on my radar to get more fermented foods. It wasn't something that I enjoyed in the past. So I was really surprised to see Chicken in the Sea as chapter 11. So in Plant Paradox, you convinced me, and this is my interpretation, so not necessarily because I went back and looked at it, to stay away from chicken. I could not find the specific quote, but I thought you had said chicken may be more responsible for, I can't remember if it was antibiotic consumption, inflammation, or whatever, just because of the sheer volume of chicken that we consume. You described the horrible conditions of free-range chickens. I think the quote is, "It's perfectly legal to keep an animal inside a warehouse its entire life and call it free-range as long as a door to the outside is open for a mere 5 minutes a day." I always joke, Bob in the back of the warehouse doesn't know there's a door and doesn't know the door's ever open, right? That's kind of... So what was wrong? So you've kind of... I don't think you've changed, but you're kind of much more comfortable with chicken under certain circumstances. So talk about that, please.
Here's the good news. So chicken, unfortunately, is just an ear of corn with feathers. And it is, you cannot, quote, give antibiotics to chickens anymore. But there's a loophole. If the veterinarian thinks, who is hired by these factory farms, thinks that one chicken in the flock of 100,000 in a warehouse, and there are literally 100,000 chickens in a warehouse, thinks that one chicken has an infection, it is legal for him to dose the entire flock with antibiotics for that one chicken. And interesting, there's, as you know, a bit of tariff wars between China and us. And one of the things that we are adamant is that people should buy our agricultural products like beef and chicken. And the Chinese government has pushed back multiple times, saying that when they test American chickens, 60% of the American chickens that have been sent to China for testing test positive for antibiotics. 60%. And wait a minute, we don't give antibiotics to our chickens.
It's illegal.
Yeah, so there's a new herbicide that I won't talk about today, but it's banned in all countries except the United States. And because it is so deadly to the microbiome, it's a neurotoxin, it's banned in all countries but the United States. And it's now replacing glyphosate as a weed killer and as a crop desiccant because nobody knows about it yet. And I'll just leave it. It's son of paraquat, and anybody wants to look up paraquat, it'll scare you to death. But it's banned in all countries, but it's used here. So
now we're probably seeing that in our food supply.
yeah. So getting back to chicken,
go.
the good news is, I've made a plea for pastured chicken, and that does not mean pasteurized chicken. And we are now actually seeing, even in Trader Joe's, there's now pastured chicken. And so we're getting there. Is it perfect? No. But, a plug for Farmer Dan at Lectin Light Chicken in Texas. Farmer Dan feeds his chickens, free-range chickens, pastured chickens, a lectin-free diet. And I'm a huge fan of them. It's the best chicken you'll ever eat. Lectinlightchicken.com. Light spelled like a light bulb, not L-I-T-E. So we're making progress. So we're getting there.
It's going to get easier to eat healthy and have a healthy gut microbiome at some point.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Live Beyond the Norms podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow. Also, make sure not to be that guy, the guy sharing this podcast with people who are not interested in living beyond the norms. If you would like to learn more about the ESS60 molecule, the molecule responsible for the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history, a full 90% extension of life, visit myvitalc.com. That's myvitalc as in carbon.com.